So today is a very special day, and I'm very, very grateful to be here. I'm going to offer this prayer to the Creator to give thanks for this day. I'm going to offer this prayer to the east direction where the sun rises, to give thanks for this new day, new beginning, and for all the blessings in our lives. This direction is, the east direction is represented by the Gitbu, the eagle. And it's the direction where we think about and pray for our children and the yet unborn. And then I will offer that prayer to the south direction, the direction that is represented by the women, where we give thanks for all the women in our lives, our moms, our grandmothers, our sugis, our daughters, and all the women in our lives, to give thanks for them. And I also always include, I give thanks to the spirit of Buffalo Calf Woman, the spirit woman that brought the original sacred pipe to the Sioux, that now all the pipes represent that original pipe that was given as a tool to the first people of this land all across Turtle Island. And then I offer that prayer to the west direction, the direction where the sun goes down. So I'm going to say the prayer in my language, but I thought I would tell you a little bit of what my prayer will be. Agisok ningatgo says imikjebe teluisi nimigam we skutchabanuk lewi. Well ali kiskuk dandil mawali me what make shot ganago. Well ali of sagodanigam we go to me majuan. Me what make nego, dandil yankwe we got dandil bonum we can walk to my giskuk, depi item sutko and mavidayak. How chibanuk chamishan leo to nadil, hachamish kipu dandle nadil, Raskarnigla demoya also man. Well ali uchidin chana, well ali go to nuchina. Well, Ali go to Mijuaj, Castle Madi, which may wish good age when I sit amorti, Migriam Kutchignagamok. Aho. Half Kades no Chamishan Leo to Nadil, Chichamichabit and Levy Nadil, Lascarlin Demoya Asad Man. Well, Ali go to them Srebijik, Asad Madi go to them Srebij that guess no good Jika, Kidney Madijik. Well, Ali Chichamichabit. Chichamichabit, what big Mr. Bagage David, Dambagus Sultamakos, we demand of Jimmy Majuno. Aho. Hartkas nuk sa ook kemiskis na kalas karlen on demoya asen man. Walali am kosoy dan wede vek sultiek. Walali knego dan de yakwe klemonemon weg. Migdel mon nego wat wat myself yakwe na. Depi item so gonige mavidayak. Ha o adnuk chamishan leoto nadel. Wa bek moin nant lewi nadel. Edas karlen gela demoya asen man. Walali am pisen dan del chugadi en tilni na kamlam na dan chugidne mediak. Ha walali go chudem setjinemo. Asad Madi, which is Chin Mutangidna Majiga, Kesson Gudishik. Aho. Agishna Mamiko, Ascalia Demoya, Asad Man. Well, Ali Kishna Mamiko, so Iginamuya go Chimi Majuan. Sangwan dan Dojik Meg, Gamoshk, Minishko, Weesisk, Mimesh, and Andel Lamotiek. I'm so goddamn me magic like sit amo, Walali Kishna Mamiko. Half said Nogama, all my relations for we are all related. Lalio.
Please welcome Chief Alan Polchis.
Do you know that there's billions of dollars that is in the industry of First Nation business all across Atlantic Canada? And we're fortunate enough to, of course, have it very here in our very backyard here in Fredericton. At St. Mary's First Nations, I see Patrick Brooks here. Good morning, Patrick. Haven't seen you in a couple of days because I've been busy with meetings with the chiefs. We've been working very hard on some very exciting files that we plan to, of course, change the footprint on the north side. I'm excited that the council and myself and Patrick being our economic development director to, of course, help us move those files. It may not happen today, but I can tell you, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen the next day. But with that being said, you know, I want to, of course, want to acknowledge the Minister Chazon, that's with us this morning, the Indigenous Affairs Minister, so thank you for being with us here this morning. And all of you, want to remember that the decisions that you make and the work that you do for today inspires the people of our young people for tomorrow. As I see a number of young folk that are here today that of course are having that business sense. We want to thank Jedi for always collaborating and always trying to sharpen the tools of our young people to do better for tomorrow. I encourage you all to, of course, dig in your pocketbooks and come support these beautiful artisans that, of course, you know, work day and night to bring their talents to life. And that's what it's about, bringing the talents to life and really exploring the vision. Once you've got the vision, then of course you've got the footprint and you've got the action, you've got the support of your community, your council, your government, your business partners, then that means we're all winners. And that's, I know that's all you're here to do today, is to explore, to of course collaborate with one another and potentially make new files for that. I do personally want to invite you all on behalf of my council at Sedungsis and all the citizens of St. Mary's First Nations. We are celebrating our 25th anniversary of our powwow, which of course is, yes, thank you. 25 years. I can remember doing it back 25 years ago. I was this high. With that being said, you know, it is one of our cultural biggest events here in St. Mary's in Fredericton. It's a family cultural event. I invite you all to come out and to share in our beautiful Wolastoqey culture. If you want more information on that, I do believe the poster has just been released. Contact Nicole Carty at St. Mary's for our vendors that are interested in setting up shop. But I can tell you that we get really overloaded. So this year we're going to do something a little bit different in how we lay out all the vendors and information booths and whatnot to ensure that the public get all the information for all the hard work that every single one of you are doing. So on behalf of, again, my council at Sedungsis and all the citizens and the Wolastoq Nation, we want to say Chiwiliwin for all the hard work that you do. Take care of your spirit, be kind to yourself, and be kind to others. Wiliwin, have a good day.
The theme for this year's forum is the knowledge industry, opportunities and partnerships for an innovative and sustainable future. And I think what we commonly identify as the knowledge economy represents really a foundational element in the economy overall. It's the industry of industries. It's what feeds every other industry in the province and beyond that. And I think Fredericton as a city and a region fosters education and innovation, and we possess a valuable base here that really elevates the rest of the provincial economy. So that's where we're putting our focus today. Can't really think of a more timely theme for the ongoing goal of this event to create more and better connections between Indigenous and non-Indigenous businesses and individuals, and increase the learning and understanding of each of our challenges, and raise awareness of opportunities, and focus on future collaboration. As you know, events like this are only made possible with the support of generous sponsors, which I must say this event is probably the easiest one we have for getting sponsors to step forward. It's a lot of support amongst the business community here to help us share this message. And fortunately, we have the Honourable Keith Chasson able to join us at the last minute. Appreciate you making time for us. Minister Chasson was re-elected to a third term as MLA for the Tracadie riding in October of last year, and in November he was appointed Minister of Indigenous Affairs.
So I want to begin by acknowledging that New Brunswick is situated on the unceded, unsurrendered territories of the Wolastoqey, Mi'kmaq, and Passamaquoddy peoples. We seek to repair and rebuild meaningful relationships with Indigenous peoples and honor these lands which hold the hopes of future generations. It's important for our government to begin, when we speak to people in New Brunswick First Nations, to begin with the acknowledgement. In the previous years, there was a directive from the previous government to maybe not do the land acknowledgement, and it's something that we decided right after the election to give a new directive to civil servants to do the land acknowledgement. And we talk a lot about reconciliation, and reconciliation is our government reconciling with First Nations, and Chief Polchis often says it's more than reconciliation, it's reconciliation. And it's the first step with the acknowledgement. And to my surprise, when the Premier and I did a message to the civil servants, I was surprised of the positive feedback that we were getting. A lot of civil servants would come up to us and thank us. They felt that the partnership, the relationship that they were trying to build with First Nations was stifled a little bit by the fact that they weren't able to express the acknowledgement. And again, I'm very happy to do it and encourage, we encourage everyone to start off by acknowledging, the lands that, we live on and work on, our First Nation lands. So this event exemplifies a collaboration between community partners, First Nation communities, the Chamber of Commerce, local businesses, entrepreneurs, and aspiring entrepreneurs. So I want to thank the Fredericton Chamber of Commerce for hosting this important forum and extend my congrats and gratitude to JEDI. The province is extremely proud to be funding partner for your important work. The growth of your organization and the diversity of your programs in the economic and workforce development for Indigenous peoples and communities is remarkable. Your initiatives not only empower Indigenous individuals by enhancing their employment readiness and boosting job placement success, but they also ignite the spirit of entrepreneurship and foster business growth. JEDI has been doing pretty amazing things to advance many sectors in New Brunswick, such as tourism, post-secondary education, training, and labor. The post-secondary sector is crucial for addressing the province's evolving labor market needs by equipping students with the skills and knowledge that businesses require. I'm from Tracadie, a very rural place here in New Brunswick, and I hear from businesses like there's two components with post-secondary education. Obviously is to be able to give the skills to the up-and-coming workforce to be able to access employment, but also for businesses who are looking either to diversify or grow. The feedback that we're getting from rural New Brunswick is that skilled labor is what stifles growth. So that piece, that post-secondary education piece, is actually extremely important, not only for individuals, but also for businesses looking to grow and prosper. The province is proud to support JEDI and remains committed to fostering respectful relationships, as well as supporting job creation and business development in First Nation communities. Through recent engagement, ONB is identifying new ways to support First Nation businesses, with a focus on promoting supply chain opportunities. ONB is working to raise awareness of opportunities to join the supply chain of major companies like Cisco, McCain, and Boeing. This year's forum theme is Knowledge Industry, as the gentleman mentioned, Opportunities, Partnership for Innovation, and Sustainable Future. So it's a very relevant and timely topic, given the ongoing uncertainty and concerns Canada faces regarding U.S. tariffs. Tariffs could significantly reduce our exports, impacting businesses of all sizes and potentially leading to job losses. Again, in my neck of the woods, in the North Shore sector, or the part of the province, we rely a lot on exports. So whether it's peat moss, the fishing industry, which is actually very huge, blueberries, oysters. The tariff part is very concerning, not only for businesses, because there's kind of like a trickle-down effect where you've got, the fishermen, for example, you've got the fish plants, but you've also got the fish plant workers. So that concern is kind of being felt on all levels. So as a province, we've kind of have to reassure businesses and people here in the province, and also get ready for the possible tariff kind of impact on local businesses and provincial businesses. So we've put funds aside. We're kind of waiting to see exactly what our, as a premier called them, our orange friend from down south is going to impose on Canadians. So that's it's kind of like an ongoing thing where it's like you never know from one day to another. So I think the important part for our government is to be able to pivot and shift and react to the impacts that tariffs will have on the economy. So we heavily rely on feedback received from businesses, business sectors, which is why events like today's forum are crucial to our work. So supporting the needs of businesses alone will not bring the stable and sustainable solution that our province needs. We need to build strategies, incorporate the needs of both businesses and communities. This morning we had a really good breakfast between the Premier and the First Nation chiefs, and obviously we talked about supporting businesses that are already established here in the province, but we also identified the need to diversify. In order to kind of strengthen our economy, we can't. It's an easy kind of saying, can't put our eggs all in one basket. We do have strong sectors here that we need to protect and solidify, but we also have to look at new opportunities, and there are a lot of opportunities out there. And opportunities for First Nation communities. So we understand the urgency of First Nation communities in wanting to move forward with economic opportunities like wind power, resource development. We talked about mining extraction, gaming, cannabis sales. So working government to government is essential for developing economic growth in First Nation communities. The revenue sharing agreement that's in the works will be critical to support this work. So the agreements are proceeding through a government to government lens and are based on partnership, respect, and good faith. Revenue sharing agreements provided revenue stability and certainty for First Nations. So the previous government, obviously, when he put an end to the tax agreement, it was felt very hard in First Nation communities. So it's for those who don't necessarily understand the tax agreement, which is going to be called the Economic Development Resource Agreement, Revenue Agreement, sorry. It was a way to encourage economic growth in First Nation communities. And it was an agreement that was kind of spun where there was a cost to it, but there is no cost to the agreement. It's actually a real, true revenue partnership. And it's something, the economic development is being done by First Nation in First Nation communities. And they are choosing to share the revenue with our government, with the province of New Brunswick. And we want to thank them for that. And so the economic development piece obviously is very important for First Nations, but the revenues also generated from that economic development piece also helps businesses, but also helps to fill gaps when it comes to providing services to community members. So it's kind of like a double importance for First Nations, and we are committed as government, as our government, to work in partnership with First Nations government to make this happen. So now's the time to look at our processes, identify what is and isn't working, and redirect our efforts to what will. We need creative solutions, collaborative efforts to propel New Brunswick forward and achieve better outcomes for our province and communities. We witness incredible adaptability and innovation that emerged from the crisis, and we now call upon our businesses or business community to step up once again. During today's panel discussions, I encourage you to voice your concerns, share ideas, maximize networking opportunities. We need your ideas and experience to help you address our current and future economic challenges. So, how can the province improve its support to the business sector, things like that. The conversations we're about to embark on during this forum are vital to how we move forward as partners and a province. So you are the experts who bring the experience and insight needed to identify key opportunities that will make the difference. So that was my speech for this morning, and I want to end with something that Chief Terry Richardson always shares with us when we do have these meetings. Chief Terry Richardson is in Papineau Falls, and he always begins a meeting and ends a meeting by saying that when First Nation communities prosper and do well, New Brunswick as a province prospers and does well. So thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us today. I'm just going to frame the discussion a little bit before jumping into the questions. This business forum and networking event has featured both Indigenous and non-Indigenous businesses with the goal since 2023, again, to create more connections and more understanding between those two groups, to raise awareness of challenges. Can't think of a more timely topic than this for this panel, and we've certainly got 4 great panelists here. We're here to discuss the power and need for education, opportunities and partnerships for innovative, sustainable future in our communities. And open to all the panelists. I'll start with Josh and move along the aisle here. What does knowledge industry mean to you in your perspective role?
I was thinking about this morning. I mean, I think the simplest way that I'd want to explain it is anything that's like non-tangible that you're creating. So as opposed to the sort of the commodities industry, the knowledge industry depends on people's ideas, which means sometimes the barriers to entry into that industry are quite low. And I know we're talking about education, so we'll touch on that in a bit. But usually if you've got a good idea, you're part of that knowledge industry. And Morgan, as you mentioned earlier, it tends to cut across most sectors. So you think about manufacturing, there's someone doing the engineering design. That's a knowledge-based function.
So knowledge industry, so I'm with NBIF. We invest in early stage technology companies. And to Josh's point, a lot of what we do is investing in ideas and solutions as opposed to hard product. And when I think about what it takes to be involved in that, it's a lot of people think of what sector they want to be in, what job they want to be in. It's far less. It's universal. It transcends anything, whether it's fisheries to forestry to healthcare. Knowledge, the knowledge part is relevant. So regardless of what you're interested in, I think that's what's powerful about the knowledge industry. It transcends every sector.
I'm going to disagree with all of you guys. It's not the actual idea, it's the person who has the idea. That's where the knowledge comes from. So we can have the greatest ideas in the world, but if we don't have any way to realize them or make them into a thing, then it matters not. So when they talk about investing in knowledge, they're investing in the person with that idea, because that's the sales, that's how you make that idea. So knowledge is more than just a thought. It's the entire makeup, and how that comes along. So that's what I think anyways.
And I'll kind of agree and disagree with everyone. I do get that the knowledge industry does transcend everything. Like, you can have an idea in any sector, in pharmaceuticals, biotech, ICT, what have you. It is part of the knowledge industry. But Leon is right. You can't protect an idea. It has to be an implemented idea. Like in the IP world, in intellectual property and registerable rights, you have to be able to implement the idea to give it form and function, and that way it's protectable through government, treaties and whatnot. That said, all forms of knowledge industry are protectable in some way, shape, or form. If it's trade secrets, you keep it secret. You compartmentalize to make sure that not everybody knows everything on the team, so that you're able to better protect your secrets. And those are all forms and ways of protecting that intellectual property, that knowledge that you might have and you want to commercialize. Because at the end of the day, that's what the knowledge industry is. It's commercializing those ideas. It's putting them to action and turning those thoughts and those processes into economic potential.
I'm going to get into some specific questions that targeted panelists, but anyone feel free to jump in there and build on that. I'm going to start with Josh on identification of need. What has your experience been in identifying the need for education and the application of digital or future tech in our business communities?
Yeah, I know at the beginning you mentioned the importance of education. Obviously, education is important. I think how I'd like to answer that is what we're seeing in the knowledge industry, especially the heavier tech-driven parts of the knowledge industry, is a bit of a de-emphasis of degrees and credentials. And I'm not saying that these organizations are ignoring them or refuting them, but there's a de-emphasis. And so where the emphasis is starting to move is towards demonstration of competencies or abilities. So unfortunately, it creates a new challenge. Like, that shift has been happening for decades, but the challenge that we're facing now is how do people show those skills and abilities in today's market. It's not enough to just have a degree or a credential on a resume, on a piece of paper. And so to get to the question about how we seek to identify that, a lot of the work we do within UNB at the McKenna Institute is to try to accelerate that connection between the person and the industry. And so we try to work with the hiring sectors, identify what those traits and behaviors look like, and create experiences, create an environment where that collision can happen, so that maybe you're meeting someone in person, or maybe you're seeing them demonstrate those skills in sort of an environment that's akin to your industry. Hopefully that made sense. An example is a project that we're working on with Leon around bringing students into a space of employment so that those students can both learn, but at the same time, in these sort of challenge-based scenarios, demonstrate those aptitudes.
I'm a big believer in co-ops. Like the engineering co-ops, the computer science co-ops, MyTax is in the room. They're a great resource for co-op funding if you're looking to bring in co-op students into a business, or you are a student looking to have some experiential learning. I was fortunate enough doing my undergrad and my master's degree to be working with NB Power a lot in the summers, and I really learned a lot from that hands-on experience, so I definitely can't recommend it enough.
I think both of those speak to what you were saying, Leon, about the individual in the first place. So I'm going to jump back to you and get into the nuts and bolts a little bit. Connecting the individual and the idea and the supports and the commercialization. I know JEDI has had a long history of providing ICT supports back to 2012. I understand. Can you talk about what do you have available now? How do you work with individuals to help them bring their ideas to market?
So one of the things that JEDI does a lot is we hire from within previous students. So myself, I'm actually a previous student of a JEDI program. All my instructors are previous students of the JEDI program. So we actually put our money where our mouth is. The students that we've had is we've identified needs within certain organizations or certain industries. For instance, the first one we did, I think, was big data. I think they did mobile device development. They did cell phone repair. And then we went right into cybersecurity. And we developed a cybersecurity program because there's a huge need for cybersecurity analysts right across Canada. And one of the things that I believe in is for our Indigenous people is that we are Indigenous to Canada. Like, we are the actual Canadian people here. So we're the ones that we have the most to lose if we were to lose, a cyber war or something like that. So I look at it that way. So now what we've done is through the evolution of the program. So I came on probably about 6 years ago as teaching. And we've taken the cybersecurity program in a different direction because we've talked to key employers. We've talked to McKenna, UNB. We've talked to NB Power. We've talked to Thales and IBM and all these different companies, and they've come back and said, we need certain things. So what we've done is we've tailored the programs to meet those needs. So our current evolution of IT program is actually a full 2-year diploma program with CCNB that's accredited through CCNB. And the reason for that is majority of employers, like we were talking about degrees, they don't want degrees anymore. Like, I hate to say it, bachelor's of science degrees in computer science and stuff, most employers don't really care about. They want to know certifications and what a user competencies can. And so even the colleges have changed to competency-based learning, which means it doesn't matter what you score on an exam, can you actually do the work? So we've changed our program to meet that need. So we've actually gone through a program, and right there in the table sitting in front is a few of our graduates from our past cyber program, and we've changed our current program so much they want to come back. like they really do. So our new program is a full program where it takes a student from 0 to 100% in 2 years. So much so that our program has grown that we've become recognized by Thales, by Kyndryl. We received a very large grant from the Kyndryl Foundation, and we're the only Indigenous organization and the only Canadian organization to receive that. So with that money, we're able to even increase our program offerings. So some of the stuff we're doing is we're going to be doing, full-fledged cyber range. We're going to be doing attack scenarios. We're going to be doing all kinds of things to show that our students are just as competent as somebody that come out of university. Sorry, UNB, but we are going to beat you at the next cyber side. Okay, I predict it.
And to springboard on that too, continual learning. Like you said, students are wanting to come back to continue on and do more learning. It's going to be, it's always been a big component of professional development and continual education. It's becoming more and more important as the speed of change accelerates in our economy. 20 years ago when I started, when I started my undergrad degree, I was going into chemistry, I was going to wet lab, work in industry, what have you. I never thought I went and worked at NBIF, worked on venture funds and agreements and whatnot. You have to be able to adapt. Adaptability and continual education is going to be ever more important in professional development going forward and in economic potential. So don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, reach out, talk to people, continue learning, experiment with things. It's the only way to continually evolve in this economy.
We're in the tech space, and a lot of people think that tech companies, you have to just be a tech expert. That there are skills, creative skills, innovation skills that are not tech dependent, that are needed for these tech companies to grow. So I never want to lose sight of that. So if you don't have this passion and aptitude for tech, it doesn't mean that there isn't space for you in growing the tech economy or the knowledge economy. There's room for everyone, and I think that can be really off-putting when people think, oh, I don't want to be part of the tech community. I'm adverse to being part of technology, but there's so much opportunity for all of those other diverse thinking to actually augment the technology itself.
Something that hasn't changed, or probably won't change, but in terms of need, is the need for knowledge investment, which is your wheelhouse. So what does all this mean for future opportunities for startups and employment across communities?
We're equity investment. So that means we buy shares in your company, and we are partners with you. So when there's risk, we're partners in the risk, but we also are partners in the reward. So for us, we're really focused on scaling tech startups, because tech startups have an opportunity to really export. There's no barriers to export. You don't have to put tech products on a shipping container and put them on a boat. So when we think of the opportunity for growth and scaling quickly, that's why we're leaning into tech startups. The world of tech startup, where the money is really going, it's all AI enabled. That's the reality. AI enabled tech. So whether that be in the forest industry, fisheries industry, I used that example before, that's where the money is going. But there's also some other populations that are showing up that have not necessarily received investment in the past. Particularly, my colleague Hillary and I, we were at a Women in Tech conference in Toronto a couple weeks ago. The fastest growing segment is femtech, women-led products and women-led solutions in the tech industry. So really, really interesting. So as we start to include more diverse voices and untapped markets, like there's so much, there's a lot of opportunity. There's room for everyone is really what I think when I think about this. When you think there's barriers, there's actually room for you.
Do you think that's playing catch up at this point, is why that's growing fast now?
playing catch up, but also there's just this, I'm going to use an example. There's a product for women incontinence. Nobody was talking about that. That problem has existed forever. So it's as much as it is catch up, it's actually just serving a market that has not actually been met. So if you think about that, and there's lots of segments of the population, their needs are not being met. So we don't have to actually always be solving the biggest problem. Solve the niche problem for a segment of the population. And
it is an interesting cycle. Like, so the tech space has matured. Like, the internet is built. Like, you're not going to build a new Google or a new Facebook. Like, it's very hard. It would be hard to recreate that because you have scale, you have network effects that are hard to penetrate. And we're seeing it in the tech ecosystem here locally as well. Like, Atlantic Canada has kind of reached peak startup. If anybody follows Entrevestor, they're an e-magazine that reports on the tech and venture scene here in Atlantic Canada, and they've kind of been monitoring this for decades. And they've kind of seen a peak in terms of startup. What we're seeing, and I mean, Atlantic Springboard, we do a lot of work in the tech transfer space. We work with all the universities and colleges that do technology adoption and applied research to try to spin out commercialization products and licensing agreements and all that. But one of the programs that we do manage is an intellectual property program, and we work across Atlantic Canada. What we're really seeing now is a lot of health tech, a lot of pharma, and a lot of it's out of the ocean space. The Ocean Startup Project and the Ocean Supercluster has really kind of made a spotlight on that, so there's a lot of that going on in the ecosystem. It's what I've seen, and I don't know if NBIF can say that as well. There's been a slowdown in New Brunswick startups. I'm hoping we'll see some reversal on that, but it is a pipeline issue, right? You gotta really drive it at the university levels, the incubator levels, like JEDI and what you guys are doing, to create those opportunities for investments and investors like NBIF. But it's an interesting time. But yeah, you're seeing it a lot in AI now.
so I just want to jump onto that from the last question, Morgan. Also, as an opportunity, as a career, is entrepreneurship. We're talking about a slowdown in startups. That means there's a slowdown in entrepreneur, founder mentality. So I'm delighted when we see the entrepreneurs in the high schools thinking about that. Entrepreneurship as a career option is also really important.
Yeah, it's foundational, and so I agree. I mean, the K-12 system, that's where it's got to start to make that a viable career option. Andre, you've got, you mentioned the Ocean Supercluster. I know you've got some background in the energy sector. What's the importance of this transition, including education, new technologies, impacting on the energy sector? Kind of setting up for a later panel.
Yeah, I mean, this could be, and I'm glad there is another panel on this, because energy is so foundational to economics, like to what we can do, and because the price of energy infiltrates everything, every cost of goods. It's just ubiquitous, right? We're sitting here and there's lights on everywhere, and this transition is going to be it's going to be difficult in New Brunswick. I mean, we have a lot of aging infrastructure. We have a lot of big expenses that are coming down the pipeline. I know I was at the CME event yesterday, the Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters event last night, and Premier Holt was there, and she talked a little bit about it. But there's some big decisions that are going to have to be made at every power in terms of infrastructure spend, and that's going to be on ratepayers, on taxpayers. Who knows what that's going to look like? Technology is going to help with some of that, like the smart grid, smart metering, photovoltaics or solar, whatever. Integration with vehicles. I have an EV. I'm trying to get my solar panels put on my roof. So there are opportunities, but there's going to be some big disruptions in that system.
Heather, I want to jump back to your previous comment too about the education system and jump starting some of this again, whether it's in energy or in incontinence. What skills should we be focusing on for future tech? AI is dominating conversation, of course, but that's not really a skill in itself. I'm thinking of things like communication skills, and so what should we focus on to kind of catalyze that a little bit?
It's actually more traits than skills, perhaps, but it's the flexibility, the concept of early adoption, being really comfortable with failure, and going after and try again.
It's a mindset, right? It's a mindset thing.
They're traits more than necessarily skills, because there are things we don't even know are going to exist, so how do you train for that? But how can you actually be prepare yourself to be comfortable that your job might not look the same every day? So getting comfortable with those kinds of the traits of an individual rather than necessarily the skills.
It's something I hear folks talk about with the American startup and American entrepreneurship is failures are a badge of honor. They're not something to be ashamed of, and that's not necessarily the case here. So getting comfortable with failure and try again, fail fast, I guess. Go back to Leon. We've used the word partnerships a lot here, but in this context of education, training, and future technology applications, how do you view the role of partnerships and the power of education to break down some of the pre-existing barriers?
Well, it's vitally important. I mean, to create anything that we talked about, knowledge and transfer and all this other stuff, to create something is wonderful, but to be able to get that to where it needs to be, we need to mentor, we need to partner with other organizations and people, because I can't compete directly with IBM. So if I can't compete directly with IBM, I want to partner with IBM so I can utilize their greatness, I guess it is, and then, steal it for myself and move on. And no, I don't feel that, like people's like, I told my students yesterday, the former students, the ones in the incubators, like, don't be afraid to ask questions, partner with people, use that stuff, absorb their knowledge and take it on and use it for yourself and convert it for your own self. So partnerships are extremely important. Mentorships is extremely important, because I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Like, if somebody's a very successful business person and I want to emulate that, I'm going to go talk to them. I'm going to ask them. I'm going to get them to partner with me if possible. You're talking about partnering with startups and investing in companies. That's the key thing too. And you mentioned something there too that was very, very kind of made me smile, is the fact that you're also taking the partnership on the risk. And that's a big thing. I've been involved in private careers and industries and startups myself, and the partnerships are there for the money as long as you're making money, but far too often the people will bail on you when you start to lose money or fail. And you're right, failure is not a bad thing. I don't think it needs to be a badge of honor, but it's a learning thing. It's something new. Every time I fail, I just learned a different way not to do something. Right? And if you take that positively and you partner with people and you talk to any entrepreneur, you talk to any business person, you talk to anybody, they failed multiple times more than they succeeded. Because if it was easy, we'd all be Elon Musk and be very, very rich. But it's not. So we have to fail. So in order to fail, you need someone to tell you what you did wrong. So a partnership is very important with that. But also, it can't be a one-sided partnership either. So I speak to that a lot. It has to be an open communication back and forth. I'm not trying to hide from somebody. I'm not trying to steal something. I want to figure out how you do it. I want to learn that so I can do it even better. And if a true partnership, if I exceed past the partner's original thing, I'm helping them, because now they helped me get to where I want to go. Now I'm helping them to get further. And that's what's important. And for Indigenous people, like one of the things you guys were talking about, adaptability. Our culture has had to adapt for hundreds of years. We had no choice. And one of the things that I remember my grandmother used to say quite a lot is called ingenuity, because that's who we are. We have the ability to adapt and change because we had no choice. So Indigenous people, especially my students, I keep telling them, don't ever be afraid to pivot, join, change, go a different direction. Don't worry about it. Change. And that's the thing, and that's what makes, that I'm really proud of the students that I have. I have some students that are sitting in this class, in this room right now, that have gotten wonderful jobs. They've been offered jobs with big companies, Scotiabank, right there, Robert. And he's learned, and he's now to the point that the bank came to him. So that's a partnership that we developed with Scotiabank. Actually, Gage sitting over there smiling, when he was our client coach, he worked very, very hard with Scotiabank to make a partnership. And he created that partnership, and they got to see the real thing. It wasn't pieces of paper, it wasn't marks. They got to meet our students. They got to enjoy and meet and see, wow, these students are amazing. And that's it, that was a partnership. The partnership I have with Josh and McKenna Institute transcends a whole bunch of different projects. We have partnerships with Ulnawig Development, education. Like, we constantly, Jedi partners with everybody, because that's the only way we're going to get to where we need to go.
Okay, let's do some looking out ahead. I'm going to go down the line. What do you guys see on the horizon? What should be the focus here? What are the challenges and opportunities?
You know, kind of what's coming next. If you think of like technology development and the different areas of technology as sort of a pyramid, you've got data at the bottom, how we're collecting it. AI is somewhere in the middle, and we're moving up towards that, what I mentioned earlier, the 3D design, that creative space. And then next thing is going to be sort of around automation. I would say like look for those things. Think about how you can contribute to those different layers. The mentorship thing is extremely important, and some of the points you made, Heather, about how we show up in those discussions, or how you show up as an employee or as a mentee, for example. A lot of workplaces now are looking to see like how you contribute. So don't be afraid to voice, don't be afraid to suggest and contribute to that process. When we think about education now, the conversation seems to be coming back a lot to co-creation, so how the learner is involved in designing those experiences, and that's a big shift that I think is important to watch.
I'm going to add a few pieces to this. So from NBIF specific, really thinking of some of these sectors, and I'm going to go right back into this femtech. What communities are not being, what markets are not being served? There's all kinds of opportunity there. And then specifically around New Brunswick, this is my own bandwagon. There's several areas of tremendous opportunity. I saw Paula here from the Port St. John, Portobello Dune, the growth, the opportunity, and what are the wraparound opportunities to support that growth. I think of the refurbishment of maybe a Mactaquac. What is the work? What are the skills? What is the technology that's going to be required to do that? Thinking of problems that we actually have here, and how do we line up our workforce, our skills, the companies, so that we can actually support the transformation as opposed to having to import it.
Leon, what's on your horizon?
Well, for us, it's just to keep riding the wave and trying to get where we need to, for Indigenous people. Like we've lacked so much for hundreds of years, and now we're kind of playing catch up to get back to this. So when we talked about, it's really funny, you were talking about ocean superclusters, energy, and all this stuff. It's stuff that Indigenous people have been doing for eons. Like we understood the land, we understood what we do, and now everybody's like, oh, now we need technologies to learn how to grow more food. Well, if you had listened in the first damn place and didn't take, you'd have learned. So now you see a big uptake in a lot of businesses now coming back and looking at Indigenous inclusion into their businesses about, well, how can we take these teachings that we talk as teachings, as we talk as beliefs, and implement us into technology to create new technology to offset a cause because technology created in the first place. So one of the things that we're looking at is that kind of stuff. And it's really, really funny that, we're all talking about going forward. Oh, artificial intelligence. By the way, it is not artificial intelligence. Stop using that term. It is not intelligent. Okay? It is nothing more than a database that searches for stuff.
The source data is very uniform, not diverse. So it doesn't capture the voices. It would not reflect the people in this room. And I think that's important to think about when we think about AI and the value we can add to that. Carry on. Over to you.
And absolutely, that's correct. Like the data sets are jaded. We could spend hours, probably the three of us and Josh, talking about, but the idea is don't, understand that is a tool. But what it doesn't have is it doesn't have everything that you do. It doesn't have the Indigenous inclusivity. It doesn't have the female inclusivity. It doesn't even have other cultures. It is based on information that's been scrubbed and put in. So AI is an important thing. The idea of data, and we talk about sovereignty of our nations and everything else, but we also have to be sovereign about our data. We have to protect that. Every one of us that are on Facebook, we lose our data. Everything you do is being taken and used and sold for people to make money. So remember that. So if we limit what we give out, then we have more control. But anyways, going forward is just, we want to start creating stuff that we have lost. We want to do the economic development in our communities. We talked about New Brunswick, investing in New Brunswick. Yeah, I have students that don't want to leave their communities, but unfortunately some of the jobs required them to go to Ottawa, like CSE, Communication Security Establishment. They wanted, oh, your students, yeah, we'll hire them right away, but they got to move to Ottawa. Well, I don't want to move to Ottawa. I've lived around the world. I like New Brunswick. I like being here. So we had to create different ways. And so a new thing that we're trying to do is get people to think differently. Don't think black and white. Indigenous people have done it, again, for eons. We don't think black and white. We don't think linearly. We think circularly. We look at all different things. History repeats itself. Our elder teaching from Elder Donna is teachings that I would take and give to my grandchildren. And they hopefully will give to their children and so on, and that will keep that alive. You know, that's the thing that we want to keep, and we need to keep that education, and we need to keep that ideas and concepts growing. And we need to make it forward, and we need to monitorize it, I guess, and keep it here in New Brunswick. Because I'm going to tell you what the next tariff is, so please don't boo me, but I'm an American citizen. I was born in the United States. I'm very proud of that. I'm also a Canadian citizen. I'm very proud of that too. However, the orange orangutan is going to start tariffing intellectual property. So now he's going to start taxing our thoughts and our internet. He actually said a statement the other day where Elon Musk is saying, we have to figure out a way to start charging tariffs on ideas.
Well, I'm
Like,
glad you brought that up, because I was going to go a little bit more macro in geopolitics and stuff like that. Because I mean, they're not the only ones that have threatened that or made statements on it. Because I mean, even in Canada, we're like, if we really want to hurt them, we should hit them where it hurts, and it's intellectual property rights, like ignoring patent rights on pharmaceuticals. Like, let's start manufacturing a bunch of generic semaglutide or whatever, Ozempic. You know, stuff like that. Like maybe it's ignoring Netflix or digitally pirating digital locks on software and different things like that. So there are, we live in interesting times. Let's just say. So I know treaties are only as good as the friendship and the trust between nations, as everybody in this room can probably understand. Currently, the U.S. is definitely flaunting and throwing its weight around, economically speaking, in terms of what treaties it's going to adhere to. So these are the types of things that are going to have to be thought of ongoing for at least the next 3 years anyway, as long as he's the president. Who knows how long the relationship will be damaged afterwards.
Final thoughts, anyone?
Hang tight, as Andre says. The future is bright. We probably won't build jets here, but we'll definitely be building components and probably software that goes into the jets. So that's good.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah, I mean,
that's the thing that I don't understand is when people, well, why not? Why can't New Brunswick build jets? Josh and I have had long conversations, like things like, I don't believe in wine. I don't believe it not. Just do it. For especially Indigenous, we need to heal the past, get rid of the thought of our previous government, not worry too much about what's going on down south, because this too will pass, one way or the other, and then we need to move on and just go forward. And New Brunswick started off being the cyber capital of New Brunswick. You know, we had a premier that runs the institute that Josh works for, the first premier ever to have a computer in his office, the first premier to have email. And now look what, like Frank promotes this stuff, digital literacy, digital economy. That's what we tried to make New Brunswick. We got a beautiful cyber center over there. Now we start actually having things. So you know what? We can do it here. We can become the hub of everything.
I come from away. And I've been here about 10 years, but when I think of the opportunity in New Brunswick, it's just a giant sandbox, and the opportunity, and I like what Andre said. It's just this idea that challenges opportunity, just the mindset of that. And in New Brunswick, we actually have our size, and you hear it at all I'm repeating what all the politicians and everybody says, but our size, our history, our assets, they're all our strengths.
This concludes our first session.